Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Maryrose Mc Cready. We hope you enjoy this conversation. So Maryrose, welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today's topic is going to be about the importance of knowing your body, and I'm really excited to get into this and also just to have you with us today.
Thank you.
To begin with, would you mind introducing yourself, please, and just telling us a little bit about your journey with bowel cancer?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Maryrose. I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer in 2012. So just over the 10-year mark. I had only been married like 3 weeks, and it was just a massive change straight on the marriage and straight health conditions. Before that, I was never in hospital. I never had any health conditions and things, so it was a bit of a shock. I had been, going to the doctors about things like bloating, soreness, toilet issues. So I would have been constipated a lot. You would normally hear in people with bowel cancer that, run into the toilet a lot, where they would have the complete opposite, where I was just constantly constipated. And it kind of grew on me as normal because it had been going on, that long. And because I had been to the doctor several times and I had explained, I'm constipated, I'm getting bloating, especially after eating. What else? Just pain, discomfort, things like that. And it was kind of put down to IBS and women issues, so like the time of the month and things like that. So when you're told that a few times, you just kind of think, right, it must be normal. All girls must go through this. It must be the bloating thing, especially, must be just a woman thing. Because a lot of people do experience it, and a lot of the time, it's not bowel related at all. It's not bowel cancer. It's not IBD or anything like that. So I just took it on board that it was something I just had to deal with. So this was going on. The bloating and the constipation would have been maybe 6 years. And then it just progressively started to get worse. But I was managing it by taking laxatives and stomach settlers, things like that. And then, as I say, I just got married and I had came back from my honeymoon and was just sitting normally one night, ate my dinner, didn't have any pain that day at all. Just had like a bit of bloating and got this very sharp pain in the bottom, right at the very bottom of my tummy area. And it dropped me to my knees. It was that bad. I was like, it's what's going on here. So I went down to go to the toilet. I was sitting in the toilet and I thought I was going to the toilet. I thought I was passing through my back end. It was actually my intestines coming out my back end where I had a rectal prolapse. So it was really dramatic at the time. It was really scary. I didn't know what was going on.
Terrifying.
It was so scary. So we got an ambulance. I went to the hospital. It took them a while to physically get that back in. I was nearly going to surgery, but in the end up, the surgeon was able to, get it back in without putting me out or anything. And it was just upon investigation of that led to them finding the cancer. So although that was really bad and dramatic, what I went through, in a way, it was a godsend. Because if that didn't happen, I would have went on dealing with them symptoms that I was getting. And because that happening and them investigating that, I was never in a million years expecting them to turn around and say, oh, it's a tumour, you have cancer. But by investigating why that happened, they found the tumour then.
So it was how old were you?
Sorry,
how old were you at this moment?
27. Yeah, so they did say, it was anybody I seen medical wise was, oh, you're very young to have the type that you have. And, it was just so unexpected and so dramatic. And from that was found, it was just go, go, go. It was like I was in surgery then I was sent for another colonoscopy test, CT scans, MRI scans, and I was in surgery within the 2 weeks. So my first surgery was they removed the section that had the tumour, so a section of my bowel, and they reattached the bowel back together. It was the sigmoid colon where I had the cancer. So they removed the sigmoid and they reattached that back together. And then it was just recovery from then.
And what was that recovery process like for you?
I was very ill after the surgery. I was taking infections and stuff in the wound. And it was a bit of a comeback, because if you could imagine, I walked into that surgery looking like I look now. I didn't, because I had been dealing with them symptoms, that I didn't know was symptoms of bowel cancer at the time. Because I always put bowel cancer as bleeding, diarrhea, all these kind of things. And I also knew I was young, and it was never highlighted that anyone is young, having bowel cancer. So them symptoms I would have went on dealing with, because I've been told, we think it's IBS or women's problems, things like that. And I walked into the surgery looking like I am now, and I came out completely floored, so it was kind of like, I felt like I wasn't sick in a way going in, but coming out, I felt like, God, it's just a massive transformation. Just even getting back on your feet again, and, things like that. But I came round, I recovered, and whenever I researched into things a bit more, I began to realise that, there was other small things that was symptoms that I didn't pick up as symptoms at the time. Things like my stools would have been really thin, and it was obviously where it had a pass where the tumour was and things like that. I never, again, would have realised or thought that that was a sign of bowel cancer. So whenever I looked at things like that, I went, that was happening to me as well. And maybe if I had realised that was a symptom at the time, if there was more highlighted around that, and I had mentioned that to the doctor as well at the time, it might have been, pop up. But unless I had that prolapse, that wouldn't have been found as soon as what it was.
So as well as the surgery, did you have any other treatments such as chemotherapy or radiotherapy?
No, they done tests and it didn't get into the lymph nodes or anything like that. It was contained within the bowel. It did go to a meeting about, having chemotherapy. There was a lot discussed at the time in terms of fertility and, things like that. And me, alongside the doctor, the consultant, came to the conclusion that, it would be best if I didn't have it. So, no, there was no chemo or no radio or anything afterwards.
So speaking of fertility, I saw you post about the fact that obviously you have 2 beautiful children, but that you were told that potentially there could be difficulties in conceiving as a result of the surgery. What was the kind of, advice given to you at the time, and also, maybe the warnings, and then how did it actually transpire in reality?
Yeah, so I was told at the time, because they were working in around where the womb area was, the womb was lifted, and they can never guarantee, in terms of fertility, because they have been messing kind of down around that area, moving things about, pulling things in and out. Obviously, whenever you're having a section of your bowel removed, they're going to have to lift all that out, remove the section, put it back in, things like that. They did tell me, we can't guarantee. We don't know if you'll be able to conceive or not. That was something we discussed quite a lot. It was something I had massive concerns about, simply because, as I say, I had just been married. And that was our next step. It was the next thing. I've always wanted to have a family, and the thought of not being able to then was kind of like, but they just said, look, we can't guarantee, and there's a chance that you won't be able to. So I found it, it took a while. We tried and tried and tried, and it did take about a time before I was able to conceive. And then obviously when I did conceive, the worry was just unreal, because I thought, right, I've been given this miracle baby, and what if something happens now in the pregnancy and things like that? But no, everything went really well in the pregnancy. I did have to get a section simply because I wasn't allowed to push with the prolapse that had happened and the reattachment of the bowel. Yeah. So they said, a section would be the safest and best option. So I had a section with me first, and then fell pregnant with my second quite quick. I just assumed because it took so long with the first, it would be the same. But no, he came really, really quick. And of the two healthy boys, thankfully. So.
And when did your stoma surgery happen? Because obviously your first surgery, they rejoined the bowel and you didn't need to have a stoma.
Yeah. So I actually had 2 surgeries after I had the 2 boys. I knew there was something not right. The second towards the end of the second pregnancy, I could see a bulge on the left side. I just thought, it's with things getting pushed forward and that during the pregnancy. And after the pregnancy, bowel movements was really bad, but I know that after pregnancy that does happen. So again, it's kind of one of them ones where you're not wanting to bother, doctors and things. You're thinking, I don't want to be stupid, I don't want to be, but I knew myself there was something not right. So I did go back to the doctors. I went back to see my consultant in the hospital, and they did a camera test, a colonoscopy, and they said that my bowel was over enlarged in areas and then was going tighter in other areas, probably due to the previous surgery where they had reattached it back together, and there was a lot of scar tissue, things like that growing around it, and it was pulling it in different areas. So that was causing what I was seeing, the bulge, which was where it was expanding when there was a build-up, because there was a tight area then, where the output couldn't pass through. So that was giving me so many issues. And in 2019, February of 2019, I started to have really bad pain, like a contraction feeling that the bowel was contracting, couldn't pass any gas, couldn't pass any output, extreme pain, really, really bad. And I went into hospital, got a CT scan, and they says, we need to rush you for emergency surgery. There was a complete blockage where the larger part of the bowel had flipped over and completely blocked and cut off and strangled, the bowel area. As I say, that was due to scar tissue. So they took me and they cut me right down the middle. So again, I'm being cut over, another scar. I already have the cesarean section scars below that. And they untangled and removed a lot of scar tissue, did whatever they needed to do. And just, again, it was recovery from that surgery. And I was really, I think then I began to get really anxious because I thought I'd put that behind me, my bowel issues behind me, and I had moved on. And I now had 2 wee boys to think about.
Yeah.
So it was at that point, mentally, I began to struggle a bit as well, because I just kept thinking, is this going to be my life? Am I going to be in and out of hospital, having surgeries, recover? Is my bowel ever going to be okay again? So that was February 2019, and the same type of feeling happened in March of 2020, so just over a year later. And same thing again, went into the hospital. Whenever they done the CT, I was rushed straight away. They says, so literally we came up from the CT scan, within half an hour there was about 10 doctors, anaesthetists, everything in the room, and I just knew. I just went, no, not again. So they told us at the time there was two growths back, and the doctor said straight out, flat out to me, the cancer's back. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember very much of what went on. I just think the shock, it was just, I can't even explain the feeling. First thing that went through my head was the boys. There's no way I'm going to come out of this the way I did the last time. There is no way that I'm going to be, better. What's going to be the outcome of this? And I just thought the worst. And just before I went to surgery, they says, look, you're most likely going to have to get a stoma bag here. It was just kind of passed over and didn't have time to think about it. And I just went into surgery and woke up and had my stoma bag, my ileostomy then. So they had removed...
Had you ever heard about it before, as having a stoma, or was this completely new?
It had been mentioned the very first time, but it was mentioned in a sense, look, you could have a temporary bag and we might need to reattach. Because the very first time in 2012, when I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, it was, my surgery was given within 2 weeks. It was an emergency straight away, straight on that same day. And there was a few things discussed, and I remember at the time, and I'm embarrassed to say this now, but I remember at the time when it was mentioned, thinking, I had been told I had cancer, and all I was worried about was I don't want to get a bag. And I think when I look back on that now, I think, oh my God, all you were worried about was a bag whenever you could have potentially died from a disease. But it just shows you people's perceptions of what life would be like with a stoma bag, and I was one of them people. So whenever I was told that at the time, I was more concerned about having to get the bag than having cancer. And as I say, it's embarrassing now to even say that out loud, but it's just me being honest, and so that was back in 2012. But since then, there hasn't been any mention. There wasn't any. It was just that you need to go for the surgery right away, and if you don't go, your bowel's going to pay for it and you're going to die. And that's what I was told. And it was just blankness then after that. So within half an hour of having that scan, I went straight on the surgery, and that was a week before lockdown. And it was actually the 13th of March. So it was just over a week before lockdown, and I got my surgery then. And as I say, when I came around, I had my ileostomy.
Firstly, I just want to say, please don't be embarrassed for how you felt about having a stoma. You would be surprised. I think pretty much everyone that we've ever spoken to on this podcast who had bowel cancer felt exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that you're speaking about it and raising awareness does a lot to remove that stigma, and hopefully people won't feel the same again. So I just wanted to say thank you.
It just feels like it comes across as a vain type of thing, but it was just my my perception. I just thought, no, I can't get my head around how I didn't think about the cancer side of it, and that at the time, now that I know what it's like having a stoma bag, if I was in that position again, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't care, get this bag on me and get the cancer out, as long as, do you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
And I kind of held that on at the time. I was like, it was just, there was so much going through my head at the time. And as you say, there's probably many others out there that's felt that way. And hopefully if there's somebody, sitting listening to this today that, is awaiting surgery and feeling the same way, that they can think, God, that's all right. I'm not the only one feels like that. But I just remember at the time it being me, no way, please. And whenever I woke up from surgery, it was the first thing I asked. And again, I'm so embarrassed even, I didn't ask, am I going to live? How bad was it? Had it spread? I asked if I got a bag, when that first surgery, and it was, no, you don't. And I just remember being relieved. But now looking back, I think, stupid, it shouldn't have been my priority.
I think it's really normal. Also, cancer's a very big, scary thing to get your head around. And I
Yeah.
also think I can't imagine trying to process that, whereas actually just like thinking about a stoma bag and a stoma bag alone is almost probably an easier thing to fixate on than all of the things that are associated with cancer as well. So
Yeah.
perhaps that had something to do with it.
Possibly, yeah.
What do you wish that you had known about life with a stoma before your surgery? Like, what have you found living with it being like versus perhaps what you thought it would be like?
Honestly, I feel it's the first time in my life that I've been me. And that's it's really even hard to, I can go out, I can go online and I can say what I want, say what I feel, not worry about judgment from others. You're always going to have it. And I think that was the reason I felt the way I did about having the stoma bag. It was always, oh, what's that person going to think of me? What's they're going to think I smell? They're going to think this is disgusting. It was never how I felt. I wish just had I known beforehand what I know now, which is it's not a bad quality of life. Like people think getting the bag is the worst thing in the world. And I actually talked to my stoma nurse about this yesterday, and she said that when people name their stomas, a lot of the time, I've never named my stoma because at the time I struggled to deal with it at the beginning, and I didn't want to make it any more alien than what it already was. And we were having a discussion about it yesterday, and she said she doesn't like the fact that patients will give their stoma a bad name, because it's associating it with being bad for them. It's something that shouldn't be there, something that's causing them issues. And I agree with that. And I think that before I had my stoma, if I had known that life would go on as normal, it wouldn't stop me from doing anything. It would make me a stronger person, a more confident person than what I've ever been in my life. And I can't believe that I'm more confident having a stoma bag than what I would have been before. Now, I come from a personal trainer background, take classes, stand up in front of people. People would have thought they look at me before. She's completely confident, but no, I wish I could have told myself, you'll be yourself, you'll be the most confident person once you have your stoma bag, and they have that worry off your shoulders of what other people think about you. It's just the best feeling in the world.
That's actually made me very emotional. That's so lovely. I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm so happy that you feel like that. That's such a freeing experience.
Yeah.
It's really amazing that something that must have been so traumatic and scary at the time has resulted in something so powerful.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you come from a PT background, and I did want to ask you about fitness and how your relationship with fitness changed after you had your surgery. And also, well, I guess let's start with that, because then I really want to ask about exercises that you can do and how to build core strength up. But I guess firstly, with that being such a big part of your life before, how did your relationship with it change?
At the beginning, when I first had my stoma, I kept thinking about what I taught, and it was changed my way of thinking in terms of training people, body image, all that kind of stuff. You can imagine when you work as a personal trainer, people look at you, and I feel like they want to look like how you look. They want to be in the shape that you're in. And I thought, who is ever going to want to look like me? I thought scars, stretch marks, now the stoma bag, lumps and bumps because of where the surgeries and scar tissues was. And I couldn't get my head around it at the beginning. It was such a change. I thought, that's my career now gone, because my main job is a health and fitness manager and a gym, and then I PT and the gym on my spare time. And I just thought, I cannot do that anymore. There was so many things to deal with at the beginning of when I came around from my surgery in terms of the stoma. So many struggles mentally that I had to get my head around, and that was a massive one. It was kind of like everything I was teaching others. You want to get a nice, tight tummy, arms, you want to look toned, you want to look strong, you don't want to look skinny, scarred. You know, everything that I was at the time and still am now, but it changed my whole way of thinking. So I learned it from my PT background that it wasn't about all them things. Everybody's so different and so unique in their own way. I had to get my head around that. And once I was able to, I'll never say not accept. I would never say I love my stoma or my stoma bag. But what I would say is I'm content. I am happy. And I'm happy with how I look with my stoma bag now. And I never thought I would have got there because of what I was teaching other people. So to change that way of thinking as a personal trainer was really, really tough at the beginning. And I started getting back into the exercise myself. And it was a year before I told friends, family, anybody that I had my stoma. I had done this page for, I had done the page, and we were in lockdown, so it was quite easy to hide.
Oh yeah.
And I had done this page and put the different name on it, and no one from my area or no one that knew me knew I had this page or followed this page. And I just went on there for support online and just to kind of rant, get it out there. Because I didn't want to talk to anybody that was close to me about it. I didn't want anybody to know how I was feeling about it or whatever else. So I started posting online, pictures of it. And the more I got encouragement from that, my confidence grew from that. Then I started sharing bits of my workout, and the many people that have stoma bags that started contacting me and saying, how does that affect your stoma when you do that? And I just got a real sense of achievement from being able to pass on that information to other people. So I found a new meaning to my personal training then. It wasn't about these transformations and making people completely ripped and looking like how you would see online. It was about, what I loved about my job was that one-to-one connection with people and being able to deliver what I know to help people feel better about themselves. And I just changed my way of thinking that wasn't the look that we were going for. We were going for embracing your body how it is, making it stronger how it is, making it healthier how it is, and at the same time helping stoma patients to prevent things like hernias and things like that. So I got massive achievement from that, and that helped me massively along the way too.
I love that. That's so amazing. You mentioned helping stoma patients. We do get a lot of questions submitted to Ostique's page, and a lot of them are around fitness, and people want to know how to build up your core after surgery without doing a sit-up, essentially.
Yeah.
What would your tips be for somebody who's X many months post-surgery and has had sign-off from their team to start exercising?
Yeah, so it's the most scary thing and daunting thing. It was for me, and I'm trained in GP referral, which is where patients would come to me who's been referred by doctors for different, so post-pregnancy and things like that as well. I would have dealt with the muscle separation in the tummy and things like that. And even me having that background, it was very daunting for me to get back into exercise. So I completely understand how these people are feeling. You're warned a lot about hernias, don't do this, don't do that. Be careful doing this, be careful doing that. So you're so afraid to go into exercise, it can put you off completely. But to be able to prevent things like hernias and to be able to improve your core, make it stronger, so you're not having back issues, so you're not, hurting yourself, or you're not having your stoma protruding and things like that, you do need to improve your core. So my advice would be, once you're signed off, get yourself a good support belt. There can be people that don't like wearing support belts, people do. My advice would be, at the beginning, for mentally and physically, to give you that wee bit of support, always wear your support belt at the beginning. Wear comfortable clothes. If that's your pajamas, if that's shorts and t-shirts, whatever it is at home, wear that. I trained in my pajamas for the first 3 months because it was the only thing that I felt comfortable coming up over my stoma bag or under my stoma bag along with the belt. And if that's what you have to do that at the beginning. Take the time to yourself and begin with your deep lower basic core exercises. You need to learn before you start doing core exercises how to engage your core. So begin by learning how to engage your core. It's quite hard to explain without showing, but it's basically drawing your muscles right in to the back of your spine until your lower spine is on the floor. Now, if you can't do it on the floor, you can also do it on a chair. So just draw the muscles right in while you're sitting in the chair, up nice and tall, shoulders back. And it's taking deep breaths while you're holding that core in, lifting the pelvic floor while you're at it. I do have some post-surgery workouts on my page as well. So if there is people that, once they come on and have a look, just to see what they do in that very initial stage, they're on my page, and as I say, they can come on, and there's more advanced ones as well. But you need to start at the basics. You need to build that core up, learn how to use it, and take it from there. Just light exercise and a gradual build on them from there.
Fantastic. Yes, I've seen a couple of the workouts on your page and they are really, really clear and informative. So I would definitely advise everybody to head on over. I know we've taken lots of your time and this has been amazing, but I just had one other question I wanted to ask. And this is another one that we do get from a lot of people in the community. And it's, how do you explain your stoma to your children? Or have you had a conversation where they've perhaps pointed at it and asked what it is? A few people have had the kind of concerns that the best way to deal with that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. At the beginning, I didn't tell my boys about it. I hid it away. I was in a very bad place at the beginning, and the acceptance of it. And as I say, I really struggled. And I'll tell you a story about how I changed my way of thinking. And that, so we were booking a holiday. And my wee boys, I really thought that they don't pick up on what's going on around them. But there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of anxiety. Me and other people had conversations at home about things that was bothering me. And when we were booking the very first holiday that we ever went on, there was a lot of concern. I wanted this completely covered. I didn't want anybody to see my stoma. There was, as I say, tears over it. And there was a night that my wee boy, who at the time would have been 6, came in and he said, "Mommy, don't worry. If someone laughs at you on holidays, I'll punch them." And I thought, I know. And I thought, oh my God, is this how he feels? Is this how I'm letting him think? That I should be embarrassed by it, that he should be embarrassed about it, that people's going to laugh at me when I go out like this. So I thought, no, that was a big turnaround stage for me. I thought, this is what I'm giving off to him. He thinks that I should be embarrassed by this and people's going to laugh at me. So I thought, no, I need to change this. So as I say, he had knew about it at this stage because I knew it was being permanent. And I says, look, this isn't something that I should be embarrassed by or you should be embarrassed by. And, we'd never talked about it. They'd never seen it. So I just started kind of letting him in, but I never forced it on him. I let him ask a question. It started off asking about the bag, what's under the bag, letting him see through the wee window what was there. And then he asked to see it when the bag was off. And he says, "Oh, that looks really sore. It looks like a brain." And, we would have seen like a sweet or something that resembled it. And he says, "This is like your stoma." And I says, "Yeah, it is." And, "Why do you have that?" And, I have it because I was very sick and nearly died. And this kept Mommy alive. This is Mommy's lifesaver. And, this went on. And we gradually, the younger wee boy at the time was too young, but he's well informed now. And we watched the film called Wonder. And it's about this boy and he has a disfiguration on his face and he wears a astronaut helmet to skull. And when he was crying, he was being bullied about how he looked and things like that. It was a real opener for me in terms of being able to explain some people's different. And it's okay to be different, and you accept people how they are. You don't laugh, you don't make fun of them. And I would have said, you remember, Cian, you said that if someone laughed at me, you would punch them. How were you feeling at the time about that? He says, angry, because I don't want anybody to laugh at you. And I says, well, this is me letting you know it's okay to be different. You will come across people in your life that is different. And like that wee boy, look what he's had to deal with in school because he looks a bit different. And I hope you are never on that end of things, where you would bully someone for how they look or whatever. So that helped a lot. And whenever I knew that I had made it and I had done the job of changing his way of thinking, was the following year, it was Mother's Day, and he came home from school and I had a framed picture, and on it said, everything you loved about your mommy. And one of the things was, I love that my mommy has a stoma back. And I just thought, I've made it here because he's went from being embarrassed about it to loving it and telling people about it. And he said that he had he was talking to his teacher about it and things too. And I was just so proud. But kids do see and hear what's going on. And if you're not letting them in, and if you're upset about it and hiding it away from him, they secretly do pick up on it. Like, I couldn't believe when he said that. He knew that it was bothering me. And as I say, it was just a wee red flag to me that you need to change something here. You need to set an example of this is who you are and be proud of who you are. And now they don't bother about it anymore. But they'll be very quick to say, my mommy has a stoma, which, I'm happy about. So, but it's just, in terms of giving advice, it's just letting them in. Don't force it on them. Let them come to you. If you have your bag out and you see them staring at it, just mention, do you want to ask something about it, or do you want to talk about it? And just things like that. And as I say, that wee movie was an amazing opener. So finding something like a book or a movie that you can relate to them, in their age group, I think that really helps as well.
Thank you so much for being so open and honest, and also giving such helpful, practical advice. I know this is going to help so many people. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, and hopefully we can have you on again at some point in the future.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Speak soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.